Hello everyone, this is Stephanie with Beach Potato Embroidery. Today I am stitching out our beach bag. Our beach bag's been unavailable for a little over a month now. We've been waiting on fabric and zippers and they are now back in stock. So we're going to remake the beach bag in new fabric line. So now we're going to trim our foam to the stitch line. When I make a bag, I like to use the Annie's Soft and Stable. This gives the bag a little bit more weight and provides a little bit better stability than batting does. So this here is the placement stitch for the first fabric. So we're going to be placing our sand fabric down, and we just want it to go about 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch over this placement stitch, and we want extra on the side because that's going to be part of the seam allowance for when we actually sew the full bag together. So now that the sand is tacked down, we're going to add our water fabric, and we're just going to place that pretty side down on top. And we're going to line it up here, and it's going to be able to eventually fold over. So we're going to just add a piece of tape here just to kind of secure it in place, and it's going to do a straight stitch all the way across, and then we'll fold it back at the next step. So we tack down the water, there's a straight stitch there now, and we're just going to flip this over, and we're going to tape this back and lay it smooth. And just finger press it towards the top of the hoop. Now that our water is attached, we just need to add the sky fabric. So we have that here. We're going to lay it pretty side down. We're just going to lay it on top and even with our water fabric. And we're going to bring this back to the machine and tack it down. We now join the sky fabric to the hoop, and we're going to flip it towards the top. Finger press that in place. Add some tape and then finish tacking it down. I stitched out the placement stitch for our beach potato, and now we're going to lay the beach potato fabric on top and tape in place, and then bring back to the machine to tack down. So I've trimmed our potato to the stitch line. I got as close as I could to the stitches without cutting them, and then I stitched the placement stitch for the potato's hands. I have our white PU leather. I'm going to lay that on top of each hand. And I already added the tape. I'm just going to lay that in place. And then we'll bring this back to the machine and tack the white leather down. So now it's time to trim. Our hands have been trimmed to the stitch line. I did the placement stitch for the swim trunks, and now we have our swim trunk fabric. We're going to lay this on top, add our tape, and then tack this down. So the swimsuit is all tacked down. We trimmed it out. Most of the applique is done. We still have to applique the palm tree on top, but we first need to stitch down the trunk of the palm tree. So we're going to be changing our thread color to brown and stitching that out first before we do our last applique. So now that the tree trunk is stitched, we have also stitched the placement lines for the palm tree. We're going to lay our last applique fabric down and tape this in place, and then we get to trim it out. So our next step is going to be cutting out this tree. There is an alternative file where you could just do a threaded tree, so I have both available for the beach bag because this is going to be a lot of cutting. So I trimmed the tree, we did the satin stitch around the tree, we did some decorative stitching on the bathing suit of the potato, and now it's doing the satin stitch around the potato itself. And the stitches from here on out are all decorative, just coloring in our design. So we'll be doing the satin around the hand soon, we'll be doing the sunglasses, the mouth of the potato, and then we'll get to move on to the next block. So this is the final stitch out of panel A for the beach bag. So this is just one of many panels, and I trimmed it and took it out of the hoop, and we're going to set this aside and make the second panel, panel B. Panel B is going to have a zipper in it, so we're going to be using Ultra Clean and Tear Stabilizer by OESD. So the placement stitch has been stitched onto the stabilizer. I have a zipper here that's a nylon zipper. This one's a little bit longer. You usually only need about a 12-inch zipper. I believe this is a 14. We're going to have the zipper pull to the left outside of the hoop, and we're going to have it ending this way. It's okay if it's longer, it just can't be shorter. I have taped the zipper in place. I made sure not to really get in the way of the needle where it's going to be stitching. It's going to be tacking the zipper down here and then again down here. We're going to take this back to the machine. I do recommend slowing your machine down to the slowest setting so that way you can react if the zipper moves and stop the machine quicker. So now the zipper is tacked down to our hoop. It's in place. We're going to actually flip the hoop to the back side, and this is going to be creating our lining for the pocket that we're creating with this zipper. It's an outside pocket. We're going to take our lining and we're going to lay it just about a quarter inch or so past the zipper line. And we're going to tape that in place and leave the excess of the lining taped up towards the top of the hoop. So this is the back of the hoop, and we're leaving our lining taped towards the top part, and we're going to tape this along here. So I have it taped in place. My registration mark is the bottom of the zipper. It's about a quarter of an inch past there. I do have it folded. As long as it's not in the stitch field of where the zipper is, the fold doesn't really matter. As long as it's just out of the stitch field, it's just a temporary hold until we're able to bring this down in a later step. Right now, the fabric is pretty side down, but this is a batik, so it's either side is a pretty side. But if you were using a print, you would want your pretty side down. I flipped the hoop over to the front side. As you can see, the back of that lining fabric is just past the zipper fabric, which is what we want. And then we're going to tape in place our water fabric. So I've added our water fabric to the zipper. It is again just past the zipper and it's in line with the lining fabric. Our machine is going to be stitching right along here to join both of these fabrics to the hoop. Now that our lining and our water fabric are attached, we're going to leave them alone for just a moment. We do need to add some batting or foam. I'm using Annie Soft and Stable. This is a little bit thicker than batting. I'm going to lay this down and I'm leaving it just below that stitch line, and I'm going to tape this in place and bring it back to the machine while leaving the fabric still in place as they are. Now the foam is attached, or your batting, whichever that you're using. You're going to trim this to the stitch line, and this will make it easier when you put the bag together. So now that the foam is trimmed, I can now untape our water fabric, and we're going to bring this down and we're going to tape this in place to tack it down and go to the next step. With the water now being tacked down, there is a little bit of excess fabric, more than a quarter of an inch. We're going to trim this to about a quarter of an inch away from that stitch line, and then we're going to add our sand fabric. So I have our sand fabric taped in place. It's just past a quarter of an inch from this placement line, and we're going to tack this down. I attached the sand fabric on the front side of the hoop. I'm now on the back side of the hoop, and I'm bringing this lining down. It was taped in place. I just untaped it, and I'm going to bring it down, and we're going to tape this on the back side after we add our other piece of lining. So this is what makes the pocket happen. This is going to go just above that zipper line right here, and we're going to tape this all in place. Now that this is all taped in place, we're going to flip to the front side of the hoop. This is now the front. We're going to take our other piece of tape off here. We're going to take this and bring it down, and we're going to tape this in place, and we're going to tack down our lining as well as our sand fabric all at the same time. I have secured and taped down our sky fabric. This just needs to be brought back to the hoop and stitched in place. It's going to be stitching along here to join it to the zipper. On this next step, we're just tacking down our foam or batting. I've now trimmed the foam to the stitch line, and now we're going to bring our sky fabric up and tape that in place and bring it back to the hoop to tack down. Now that the sky is tacked down, we're going to just change our thread color to black to stitch the birds that are on this panel. Now that the birds are stitched, our last step is to move the zipper to the center part of the hoop and bring the hoop back to the machine to tack down everything all around the edges. Panel B is now complete. It is lined. It has a zipper all done in the hoop. Stay tuned for part 2.